who's your favorite writer that you've worked with so far?
Mark Waid.
I love Waid.
I worked on Waid on JLA, and I loved it. I mean, his scripts are fantastic. And
What JLA issues did you do?
It was issue 149, and I also did. There was a prologue to that was a giant size. I did several other jobs. I worked with Brien K. Vaughn on JLA. We did the 2000 annual.
I've read all those issues. Yeah, it's so long.
We had the character from Turkey. We jokingly said, "We got the turkey." It was a year from. Let me get backtrack on this. It was the year that they did all the different countries across the world. You know, they had different themes in China and all this. And but we loved it, man. We created a character called the Janison, and it was a lot of fun. She was trying to work on learning how to use magic, and also she had the sword of whoever's. That was her two powers. But she always got the magic wrong. But it still works somehow.
How was doing the Hulk stories for the Marvel Adventures? I mean, I really enjoyed reading so many of those. I only tried. I think I only read one of the Hulks, but I was reading a bunch of the Spider-Mans. And really loved those Marvel Adventures.
Wow, you did your research. Yes, or you familiar? Yeah, the Marvel Adventures were fantastic. I mean, for me as a kid, back in the 70s, late 70s, the comics were like one-shot issues. I mean, you know, it was one and done. Every now and then there was a carryover, you know, to be continued. Very rarely. And with Marvel Adventures Hulk, it was really doing the same process that I was reading when I was a kid of one and done. And I got to have him go. Hulk was going up against Juggernaut, and
so many characters.
It was awesome, a lot of fun.
Yeah, I loved all those adventure books. So how did you did you go to college for art, or did you just self-taught? Or?
I went to college for 2 years, but it was for just commercial art. Everything dealing with this, I learned on my own. I mean, I had published comic book artists in my area, which stunned me to begin with. I grew up in Biloxi, Mississippi, and I thought you had to be in Connecticut or New York. We had two amazing artists that we had as well in Mississippi, and you know, I just kind of bonded with them, kept showing them my work, samples, and eventually just came up from there.
That's pretty cool. Did you do any advertising before you got into advertising? A weird space there.
It makes sense. Any advertising before advertising?
Before comics?
No, I did screen print artwork. I was a screen print artist for several years before becoming a comic book artist. I got on the Biloxi Fire Department when I was much younger, when I was starting the process of wanting to become a comic artist. Same time, because their schedule was 1 day on, 2 days off. So I spent my other 2 days off always, you know, just at the board and trying to refine my craft. And it took 3 years being a firefighter and doing that I finally got to be published as a comic artist.
What was it like getting Chris Nolan's approval notes or disapproval notes?
Dude, that was absolutely awesome. I mean, here's the cool thing: it was not only an approval, but it was like, man, I really love this guy's story, my storytelling, because I took care of that comic book. What we're talking about here, of course, is the Batman Dark Knight adaptation of the bank heist scene. It was just a 10-page comic book, is what it was going to be, an insert to something. But when Christopher Nolan actually saw the work, he liked it enough, liked how I paced the storytelling, the panel continuity, and he said, man, just give this guy also a cover to do, and just let's make it its own separate entity. He said he liked it. And I was like, that was good kudos from him.
Yeah, that's great, man. He's got a good eye.
And I've had to get through George Lucas too, because on approvals when I worked on Indiana Jones. So
how was he?
Do you get? I don't. Not do direct feedback.
What has
say yes or no?
See, well, I'm right.
Yeah.
I'm doing all this stupid stuff. So working through licenses like for Disney, for Pixar, and Toy Stories with that was just ridiculous stuff. You know, like she can't go in the water. Jesse's batteries will rust. No, Jessie doesn't have any batteries because she's not a fucking new toy. She's an old toy from the 70s or 60s. Right?
Yeah, all those things that you got to deal with.
Yeah. Did you have you gotten anything like that from Indiana Jones? You know, make him look more like Harrison Ford and less like Indiana Jones, or less like.
Well, let me tell you first what happened on this one. My only thing I had wrong, they said the floppy hat was too big, so I had to adjust the brim. But I did have something really strange. I also did an adaptation for the Kyle XY series. It was a story took place between linking seasons 1 and 2. It was given away at San Diego. In there, now they had the lead actor, they had approval for me to draw his likeness, and I'm pretty good with likenesses. But they didn't have the legal approval on the other characters. So then it was like, draw them as the essence of who they are in the show. Where do you go from there? That's about it. Draw their essence. In the Kyle XY series, Kyle was like a clone or something of this other gentleman, so he was the identical clone. There was an older gentleman that looked just like the actor who played Kyle. So I had to draw his likeness, but I had to draw the essence of him. But he had to still look like there was just no way. There was just no way to do it. I did it though in 7 days. I got it out. But it was
Jill Thompson had worked on X-Files, and she was given the note, can you make him look a little less like David Duchovny, a little more like Mulder? She's like,
I mean, how do you read that? That's wow.
Wait, what? Emphasize the suit a bit more.
It's
Give him a
amazing.
real small head. Nah, you can barely tell he's David Duchovny.
I used to wonder when I was a kid, sometimes I'd see these adaptations of the movies, and it was like, Al Williamson did the stuff for Blade Runner and all. It was just to the T. You felt that was Harrison Ford. But then there's other times it was like I did not see the likenesses, and now I know that those artists were probably told you can't do it. If you do their likeness, we're going to have to pay that artist because the actor artist. We'll have to pay them a royalty or something.
It's so funny though, because now in mainstream comics you see, it drives me crazy sometimes. Condoleezza Rice was one of the bad guys in Iron Man for like a year or two.
Are you
and I
serious?
wanted to kill myself. I was like, stop drawing in this political figure who I have mixed emotions about into this book. It's just like and I think one of the other main characters in it was an actor, but it was very, very obviously that actor. And it was just, what's his name? Sawyer from Lost was Tony Stark. And every piece of dialogue he spoke, all I could hear in my head was, "Hey, Freckles, I'm Iron Man. Freckles, Tony Stark. Freckles, I'm smart." I was like, what are you doing? You can't. Every likeness informs something, and when you can't take these people and just put them in because I've got a lot of footage of him.
Oddly enough, I did do that one time though.
Yeah.
And it was in the DC book. I can't remember which one, but it was this little girl had a background story about her father, she was growing up. The character's name was Fire, and I made it Sean Connery.
Yeah.
I made her father look a little like Sean Connery, from the younger years, and I just wanted to see if anybody said, "Hey, our father looks." I wanted to see if there would be any feedback.
Yeah.
Hey, that guy looks like Sean Connery. Because
Did you get any feedback?
I didn't hear anything about it. There were a couple of my artist friends said, "Oh, Sean Connery is the."
See, because there are ways to do that I think are excellent. Like if you find a very obscure actor, somebody that like Alex Ross has all these lookalikes, but it's family friends of his. And then once you see a couple pictures of them, you're like, dude, this guy's in all your books. Totally, now you recognize. But at least it doesn't disturb your experience while you're reading. It's just so jarring to just, what is that person doing in this book? Condoleezza Rice.
I put my ex-wives in some of the comics, which is always a bad mistake.
Do you? How many of them are there?
My first was Michelle. I made her a waitress in an issue of Razor, and then I did a book for Chaos called Homicide, and I made her the lead character in it, sort of. But she bites the dust at the end of it. It was kind of weird, actually. She shoots herself before the zombie will eat her. Anyway, and it was kind of creepy towards the end of the book.
Therapeutic, I'm sure.
Yeah, and
I've done that to somebody who wronged me. I did something terrible. I should say, I was doing something terrible to somebody, and then when I was trying to figure out what their name should be, I thought, Fran. That was it. It didn't take me long to come up. You don't need to know anyone. Fran, that's her name.
I just want to know more of the story now.
Oh yeah.
That sounds like some really good.
I had this girl she followed me from elementary school to middle school to high school, where I kept trying to go out with her, and she kept going, "Aren't you gay?" And I was in 5th grade. I didn't even know what to say to that. I was, no. And then I come back again, and I'm like, well, by now she's realized I'm not gay because I asked her. And then the second time, she goes, but you're gay. And I'm just like, what? No. And then I fucking glutton for punishment. A couple of years later, I think in high school, I asked her again, and she had some sort of, "You're kidding, right?" I was just like, What? See?
So you were a challenge to her.
I
ever
had
since,
long
though.
hair, and I think that her dad was some Neanderthal dick, and he told her, long hair equals they're gay. And she said, long hair? Gay. You're gay, though. Don't ask me. You're gay. Don't tease me. You know, maybe she was like, oh, you're playing with my emotions, you long-haired rapscallion. I know all you long-haired ones are gay.
I like him. He used rapscallion correctly.
Yes, he did.
Well, I'm a writer. I should have a little bit of vocabulary.
But
I don't know what you're talking about.
I can't top that. That was just really good.
It's pretty funny. Yeah. So no, I grew resentment of her over the years. I mean, I don't have it anymore. It's very therapeutic.
It's like
I love everybody.
all through school.
No, thank you.
Because of one
I'm
girl.
enlightened. I don't care. I don't have any bad feelings towards anybody. Shit. Life's too short. But yeah, no. For a minute, it was very nice. and she's in that book. But you know what? The issues where she was like tortured never came out. Because we only got one issue out before. You worked at, did you work with Scott Lucino over at Fangoria?
No, I've never worked at Fangoria.
Oh, no, not Fangoria. Chaos Comics.
Chaos? No,
Back
Brien
in the day,
Polito
Scott was
directed.
over there. Oh,
He was
Brien. Yeah,
with
Brien.
Homicide.
Oh, things are weird with me and Brien now. I did the reboot for Evil Ernie.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, and I called him. I didn't know exactly what the deal was, and he and I have been friends since I was a little kid. And he was just kind of like, what? No, I don't want anything to do with this. Dude, listen, I know you gotta work. Go work. But I don't fucking care about it. And then today we got like seated near each other at breakfast, and he kind of turned his chair like to face his back, like so that I wouldn't know, like, and like I had noticed him, and I was like, because I'd been avoiding him because he was so weird about it. And I was just like, fuck. I was so far along, I was already doing the book, and then I started feeling bad about it, and I was like, darn it, I love you, Polito. It's just such a rough spot for him, you know. They're gonna take him from him, you know.
Yeah, I know.
It's just,
I know.
but I got out. Like after I did the first arc, I was just like, I'm done. I can't. I don't want to do it. It felt weird.
But you know, of the Batgirl books and stuff from that era, I mean, also Everett Hartsoe is a good friend of mine. You know, I just did an interview with Everett, and I'm also going to be handling Everett's bookings and stuff too. But anyway, he's just, I mean, he's about to be coming back out into the publishing, you know, circuit. But just like what you were talking about with Polito, I got to say, I mean, he this is known anyway. I wouldn't tell his business with me, he was known anyway. But I think he's got some kind of publishing deal with somewhere else, but he can't do any of the old books, I think. So it's one of those still.
Yeah, where everything gets tied up, and yeah, it's tough, you know. So I totally felt for him, and it sucked because literally, like, if I'd known that, I probably wouldn't have like gone after it. But like, I saw that it was in the offing, and I was like, hey, I could do that justice, and I kind of felt like, you know. Yeah. Brien deserves somebody to do it justice. Like, let me go throw my hat in the ring. And then when I like reached out to him for like some research material stuff, and he was like, and I was like, oh, I made a mistake. But I was already in it. So it came out good though. I'm proud of it. People really responded well to it. So it worked out in the end.
Brian's an awesome guy. So Everett, I worked with him. There was Leonard. What was his name?
Is that some of the earliest stuff, Chaos?
Yeah, yeah.
Leonard
I
Kirk's
did. Not Leonard Kirk. Leonard Kirk's a friend of mine in Canada. Yeah. No, I'm trying to remember the guy's name. Kurt Lindo. Yeah, that's something.
By the way, Cameron, I'm wearing this mask because it's my son's birthday, and I judged the costume contest last night. I feel silly, but I'm just trying to be inclusive.
But you're inclusive with the convention.
Yes, I'm inclusive with the convention. You know, I'm actually like, I'm wearing it kind of in like a protest to myself to get over because I definitely like when I see the costumes, I'm like, why does everybody have to look at you? You know, like, and I'm just like, I understand.
And there's like, a whole lot of that.
Yeah, I'm just I'm experiencing it from this when people look at me. I'm like, oh, stop looking at me. But I'm trying to like get in the shoes, get in the brain set. So
okay,
that
he's wearing an awesome button.
I relinquish all judgment of the behavior.
There's even, you know, to get into the mix of everything, there's somebody out there doing face painting.
Yeah, which is cool.
It's been some of the most amazing face painting.
The zombie makeups are really great. The guys who do little zombie boots.
But what's so funny, I mean, a lot of people come here, you know, and they weren't wearing costumes, they got the makeup and stuff, and so now they weren't getting attention, but now all of a sudden everybody's going, wow, that looks awesome, and it's just that's a difference in the whole rest of the day.
Yeah.
Or can I take
a new experience? Yeah. You know, where you're really like the local.
What I want to see now is some of these costumes that Steve's going to be designing. Going back to you.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Are you done?
So talk about that.
I'll redo, doing some costumes for Razor, the Razor movie, more than likely.
Oh, yeah, cool.
But that's what. Okay, there was a thing, and I know exactly what she's leading to.
Have you ever done that before? Like,
Well, I've done turnarounds and stuff for several companies before, but I lost all my work at Hurricane Katrina. So part of what I was doing was I was actually then wanting to show Everett, samples of what I can do for him. He was going to give it to the producer. And but I said I'm not going to do it as Razor. I said, I'm going to show him how I would do the Ben Affleck's Batman costume.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I did that. It got kind of released out there for about a half hour and taken off, and stuff. It was supposed to just be sent, to my girlfriend Devin. But it went viral. And then they connected, the dots, and they said, oh, this guy's worked on the Batman series. He's worked on the adaptation of the Batman Dark Knight. This may be the costume. But I put no bat nipples on the thing twice, so it was obviously. But if you look up,
good job.
But I know where she was leading to with that. If you look up, Ben
what is the
Affleck,
point of the bat nipples? I mean,
well,
it seems like all you really need is like a slight bump. If anything, slight bump.
Yeah.
And that is even like, why do we even need that?
I mean, even if they're like drains for the rubber costumes, you think you want the hole down there.
Oh, that's the bat pus comes out of the nipple drains?
That must be what it is. Because the reason I'm saying to hold it, you see these people sweating like crazy in their bat costumes?
Yeah.
It's for the drains. Or,
Yeah.
In other words, there's absolutely no reason for it. But, I heard about the crazy about that. Maybe there is a reason for that. Yeah. It looks sexy.
That's funny.
Yeah, but no, that's... but that, I'm working on something now. I'm working for Everett. Again, also I'm going to be booking Everett at different shows this year, so we're going to get him out there and promote the movie that's in production right now.
That's really cool.
For Razor, yeah. It's just, to me, it's kind of exciting. He's become a friend of mine. He's become a friend of mine over the last few years, and just exciting to have it finally come to fruition after, it's been about 20-something years now.
It's got to be fun to, with the prospect of getting a whole costume that you designed, made. I mean, just like, when I give a good character design to an artist and he draws it out, I'm like, oh my God, that was totally, I was thinking that.
Yeah.
You're going to be like, oh, I drew that and it's like alive.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be pretty fun. It'll be exciting, especially working, again, like I said, on this character. It's got coming back home, because I was drawing her when I was really cutting my teeth in comics and learning to refine my So it's going to be fun.
That's cool. What else are you working on?
I have got a comic book called Blue Nemesis. I'm working on with my writer friend James Maddox, who's just amazing, but he's just starting out. We're going to be either doing it ourselves as a 50-page graphic novel, or we've got some pitches going on right now, and two of the major publishers are looking at it. One did already contact him with revisions that they wanted to make, and it sounds like they're really moving forward, so we might have to adjust the process. But it's a science fiction adventure and horror, a little bit of horror too. And I'm also doing bookings for Comic Art House, and I am putting together tours. We're going to be putting together a tour right now for Europe for next year for comic book artists, comic book artists. And I handle convention circuit talent as well.
Awesome, man. A lot going on. Do you have any questions for our friend here?
I probably have a few, yeah. Most of us, we start drawing comics as kids. I'm sure you start very early compared to most people, but do you recall the moment when you kind of decide, okay, I'm going to take my kid drawing level to more of a serious comic level and try to become an artist?
This is really simple for me. Yeah, it was, for the longest, I saw a lot of the comics were drawn like in a standardized fashion. I didn't even think they were being produced or drawn by people. It was when I discovered the work of Michael Golden in Micronauts that I fell in love. I said, man, this is what I want to do the rest of my life. I noticed the difference in the style, and I noticed the different attention to storytelling. Essentially, for what we do, we're like the directors and set designers and actors in the film, after the script is passed to us. And that's just exciting to me, and I noticed it in his work, and then I brought more attention into people like Wally Wood that I loved later on, and Jack Kirby's dynamics. And so, it was Micronauts #3. To answer your question, that's when it started.
did you early on create your own style, or did you feel like you had to sort of emulate somebody else's style?
You know, yeah, at first I never tried to emulate one, but I would actually look at a few and definitely trying techniques that I liked. I was picking up Warren magazines, and I would try stuff in that wash style by Rudy Nebris, you know, that really, beautiful, elegant. I tried that with tree limbs and all this. And I just emulated a lot of stuff that I liked, not just one particular. And then now I just don't even look at anything. I don't think of anything but what's in here, you know, and I really pay attention to lighting effects. You know, a lot of my style is taken by that. I'm also developing a much looser, energetic style to my work line, you know, my line work now. So it's all me now. I hear that music. Woohoo!
Well, I know I'm gonna be.
So one of the main challenges people have when they start drawing is, you know, getting the character right in terms of proportions of bodies. Do you feel that you had to go through the same challenge there early on?
Oh, when I look back at my drawings, I was very confident, but when I look back at my drawings, I was obviously challenged early on. I mean, yes, I did. You know, you can always look back and say, yes, I did have trouble. It didn't seem, I mean, I grew faster. I mean, I grew really fast as an artist because I learned about it. It's more about watching and interpreting and taking in what you're seeing and then replicating it down on paper. It's memory skills, you know, to me, really. But no, back then I did like everybody else. I had to try to learn anatomy, and I had to make myself put people in natural poses. But I didn't know any better. I would also copy a lot of the stuff I saw drawn already. And I know from life now just to say, look, people draw from life, take photos, look for some pictures on Google, and practice on clothing folds and practice on these things from life, not emulate an artist style that you saw or admired years ago. Because they're going to make a mistake, and then you're going to do another mistake, and it's not good.
So one of the things I noticed since I'm from Europe, that most of the comic conventions tend to focus, obviously, on American style comics. Have you read many European comics? Have you ever been enjoying the kind of European style?
Well,
or natural, historical, accurate comics, for instance?
Well, I've always had interest in the anthology comics that were put out. The Heavy Metal magazine we put out for the European comics.
2000 AD.
And yeah,
Did you read those?
oh yeah, and also Warrior magazine I love. That was done in the UK. But I mean, I've loved the European comics for different reasons. And I love the format. I mean, when I'm talking about the Blue Nemesis, it was inspired by my going to Brussels and walking into a bookstore where everything is 50-page, large, beautiful volumes, hardcover volumes. I said that's how comics should be done. But in addition, the processes, I've met other artists there that I talked to. How does it work on these European volumes? And they said, well, we do like 8 pages of samples, and then they pay for us up front if they like it to do. They pay us half up front to go ahead and do it for just till the deadline, and we get the other half upon completion. I said, man, that's a great pay scale, and it's very fair. And the publisher owns the rights to print it for a 4-year period, but then it reverts back to you, all of it. So, I mean, you still got also, if it becomes a movie in that time, you better read your contract. You should be able to also do that. But regardless, the way they did it just seemed much easier than by American standards. And I like anthologies and short stories contained instead of ongoing series sometimes. And in Europe, they do a lot of that stuff too. They got the stuff from the UK, the Axel Press Button, Laser Racer Press Button, and all that. Those titles, I just love those science fiction things. That was really fun.
So when you get a script to do the comics for, do you sometimes want to change the storyline? You feel like...
No, there's one story. There was a JLA story years ago I was handed. It never saw publication because it was just everything was changing so fast at DC, and my editor also was no longer there, Dan Raspler. But I didn't even think that story needed to be published. It was so horrible. I was like, who read this thing? This makes no sense. There was things in there I was almost ashamed and embarrassed to draw because it was ridiculous. I mean, I didn't understand how it got past the editorial. Sometimes maybe it's friends. I don't know. But fortunately, it never got published. But that's the only story I've ever worked on. I've worked with such really good writers that all the stories I've gotten, I've been so excited about. And everybody's pacing is perfect. I mean, again, I've worked with Mark Waid, Louise Simonson, Chris Claremont. Although with Chris, it was plots I was working from. James Peaty.
How was that working on it as just a plot?
Well, I'd done that before. When I first got started in comics, I was working on New Warriors for Marvel, and it was plot first. I enjoy the plot first as long as I can talk to the writer. And you got to have the communication. Yeah. It's a team effort. Because otherwise, it's just you'll tell when it's not a team effort. Talk to the writer about his ideas. If it's a matter of filling the page, how much room do you need for a conversation here? Is this going to be a page where you need to put a lot of information and things like that? It works out better in a sense. But other times, I don't mind working. I mainly work from scripts, full scripts, but I can do both. I get a lot of enjoyment out of plot. Mm-hmm. I like to add to it as best I can, but I also like to reel in to know I'm good with pacing.
So do you work at home, or do you have a studio on site, or?
Well, now I work out of a comic shop. I've got a little office in the comic shop down in my hometown, 3 Alarm Comics, and I work out of there. I find that it's really good to sometimes have a separation if you can from studio to home, because when I was working really heavily on DC and Marvel, I was working from the house. And then when you're working from the house, you're never ever away from work. People think it must be wonderful to work from the house, but you're truly never ever away from work. And you're also surrounded by the things that might need to be done, like, God, I really should be doing laundry. That becomes distractions. You might need to do your laundry, but you'll be better off to concentrate on your workload and then do laundry at the end of the night, but not worry about it. If you're like me, I get a little ADD distracted. Ooh, look, laundry, I gotta watch it. Dishes to be done.
Do you tend to tell yourself, okay, I gotta work 8 hours a day, or do you feel like I work whenever I feel like working?
Well, right now, because our book is on hiatus, I'm not on any kind of crunch anymore on working on the Blue Nemesis project. But with what I'm doing right now with the booking and contacting conventions and such as that, it's actually got me. Oh, and I'm also doing a podcast. I'm doing the Pop Culture Palette podcast as well, and that's one day a week. But it's just my hours are so erratic that there's no point in me. It's basically when I need to get the work done or when I can do the work. That's the best way for me to do it. A lot of times I'm not working until I get a response back from an email. Like, is this okay? Then, 4 hours later, I get a response. Then I'm having to, send contracts out and things like that.
So you mentioned X-Men. What is sort of your favorite X-Men story that you worked on?
Oh, that I worked on, it was X-Men Forever, and it was, that was with the Chris Claremont. That would have to be the favorite one for me. There was a scene in there, and it was done plot first, but there's a scene that was at least 8 pages worth of scene where it was Sergeant Fury and the Howling Commandos with Wolverine. It was a backstory, and they were doing a jump into a Nazi science building, and in there I had so much fun with this too, because I was able to put I like a lot of late night, listen to Coast AM, with all the crazy stuff. I put a Nazi UFO. I thought have the swastika on the UFO, and I've also put what was the insides of an atom bomb in the place to see if anybody would catch it. But I have always been fascinated with World War II era comics and the war comics and stuff, and I don't know why, I just enjoy that era I don't know why, but it was really fun. I didn't think I would ever get to draw a World War II story of Sergeant Fury and the Howling Commandos with Wolverine. And that was in the series that I also put my ex-wife Crystal as the daughter of the guy who created the Big Sentinels. Anyway, yeah. She liked that. She and her twin sister, as if, because it's like, oh wow, look, I'm now an X-Men.
And then in the last issue, you killed her.
That's right. She was a villain. She really was a villain, but she was a villain. But she was a villain. She was a villain in the story as well. She shot Nick Fury in the leg. Yeah.
Anything else?
Do you read other people's comics, or you don't have time for that maybe?
I'm not reading a lot of comics. I mean, right now, and I'm just not. There's a Vertigo comic called The Wake that I started reading a bit of, and I kind of really enjoyed that. And there was also one called Collider, and I think they had to change the name to something RSP or whatever. It reminds me of. I mean, it's the kind of science fiction I like, you know. So I mean, if anything, I don't read any superhero comics anymore at all. And I don't have a dislove for them. I love them. You know, I love, I guess, the memories of them too. But it's not at my age. I mean, I read other things. I guess it's hard to explain.
You're not that old.
Huh?
You're not that old.
Well, anyway, no, just.
I'm younger than you, and I've basically stopped reading comics. I mean, I still read a thing here, a thing there. Wade's Daredevil, you know, support friends. But
right.
It's just hard. Once you're doing it all the time, that's what you do. You do that all the time. And I see, you know, the outline. I you know, I'm trying to describe this, but I see what another person does not see in a comic. I read a comic and I go, oh, well, these people weren't talking to each other. You know, man, this is just a fill-in stuff. This guy obviously didn't have control of the story, otherwise he never would have done that. You know, I just see too much of it. Like, I have to really specific things, and I just wait until somebody says, hey, such and such is really good. And I go, all right, I'll read that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, otherwise I'm freaking reading books about the universe. Shit that I want to know.
Yeah, and
at a certain point,
right.
comics are like, hey man, I really enjoyed them for a long, long time, and then, you know, you're like, you've read every story.
Cases, you do read somebody else's comic. Do you feel like you're analyzing the writing, analyzing the drawing style?
Yeah, that's what
we do that. Well, I analyze the storytelling. I mean, really all the time. Maybe not so much the style, but the style is going to either be a give or take of what you like or don't like, but. Yeah, there's a bit of that, and there's sometimes I'm like, wow, I wish I thought of that, man, because we're only a tip away from thinking about that great idea, but they did do it before you, and they earned their chops. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah, if I see a reveal on the right side of the page for something that I have not gotten to yet, I want to kill the writer. What are you doing on the right side of the page? You should have structured your frickin' story so that the page turns and then you see that. Not it's spoiled the moment I turn the friggin' book. That's comics, that's writing for comics, and if you don't do that, then you're not a comics writer. You're just somebody writing.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
It's right for the friggin' medium. And so it's really hard. Like when you see people just making crap comics.